Good afternoon. Some of my students have asked me to do a quick video on the review questions that we have for homework tonight. This is a review for our test that we will have this week on inverse operations, and it's also a continuance from the video that I made about 2 weeks ago. So I'm going to start with question number 2. Number 2 says 16 plus b equals 30. I need to find my variable, which is b. Notice it's on the left side. So in order for my b to be isolated, I need to get rid of my 16. The opposite of addition is subtraction. So I must subtract 16 from both sides. These two equal 0. Bring down my b equals 14. 30 minus 16 is 14. There's number 2. Now number 3. I have 2/4 c equals 8/12. Okay, I need to find my variable again, which is c. I know that I'm trying to isolate the c, so I must get rid of the fraction 2/4. Well, the only way to equal 1, or to get rid of the fraction 2/4, is to do the opposite. This is division. All fractions are division. The opposite is multiplication. Knowing what I know about fractions and dividing fractions, I know that I copy, I change my sign to multiplication, and I flip the fraction. This is called the reciprocal. If I use the reciprocal of this, they will both equal 1, and I'll show you how. We want to do cross simplifying for these. If I look at this 2 and this 2, I know they're both in the 2 times table, so I may divide them both by 2, and I get 1. I'm going to do the same thing to the other side. I have 2 4s. They're both in the 4 times tables. If I divide them both by 4, I get 1. I know 1 times 1 is 1. 1 times 1 is 1. 1 over 1 is 1, equal to 1. So I have 1c. And I don't need to write the 1, because I know I can clearly see that I have 1c left. Okay, so now I must do the same thing on the other side. I must multiply the other side by the 4 halves. So I have my 8/12 multiplied by 4 halves. Remember, anything I do to one side, I must do to the other. Since I multiplied 4 halves over here, I must multiply 4 halves over here. Again, I am looking for my reciprocal. I'm looking to see if I can simplify, cross simplify. And I can. I can see that this 4 and this 12 are both in the 4 times tables, so I divide them both by 4. I get 4 divided by 1 is 4. 12 divided by 4 is 3. Then I look at my 8 and my 2, and I know that both of them are in the 2 times tables, so I can divide by 2. 2 divided by 2 is 1. 8 divided by 2 is 4. So now I look and I see 4 times 1 is 4. 3 times 1 is 3. C equals 4/3, which is the same thing as 1 and 1/3. Very good. Now, another one that seems to become confusing for some of my friends is number 9. Number 9 says 2 2/10 x equals 4 4/10. Again, I need to locate my variable, which is this x. I have to isolate that x. The only way to isolate that x is by using inverse operation. The operation that's happening here is multiplication. I know that because 2 2/10 is the coefficient for x, and a coefficient multiplies to the variable. So the opposite, or the inverse operation of multiplication, is division. So I will divide both sides by 2 2/10. 2 2/10 divided by 2 2/10 equals 1. So I have my x by itself now. Then I must do the in and out method for division of fractions. So I have 4.4 goes in, 2.2 goes out. It's a decimal, so I have to move my decimal over one place, immediately put it on top, and 44 divided by 22 is 2. So x equals 2. Okay, I'm going to move on to number 10. Number 10 is y over 1 2/10 equals 1 4/10. Again, I'm finding my variable, which is the y. I want to isolate it, so I must do the opposite, which the inverse operation of a fraction, which is division, is going to be multiplication. My y is being divided by my 1/2, or I'm sorry, my 1 2/10. So because my y is being divided by 1 2/10, I must do the opposite or the inverse operation, which is multiplication. So I must multiply 1 2/10 times y and 1 2/10. 1 2/10 is a whole number, so I know to turn it into a fraction, I just simply put it over 1. I now can see, doing my cross simplifying, that this 1 2/10 can be divided by 1 2/10. They both equal 1. And this y has a 1 in front of it. We don't see it because we don't need to. We know there's only 1, so this y and this 1 cross each other out. I am left with y, which is what I wanted. Now on the other side, I am taking 1 4/10 and I am multiplying 1 2/10 to it. So 1 4/10 times 1 2/10. We learned when we multiplied decimals in the beginning to just disregard the decimal points for right now. Go back to it when you're finished with your answer. So 2 times 4 is 8. 2 times 1 is 2. Moving into my tens place, that's 4 and 100. I have 8 and 0, I have 20 and 40, and I have 100. Now I come back, I see 1, 2 places, 1, 2 places. My answer is 1.68. 1 68. Okay, next one that I will go over is going to be number 12. Okay, number 12 says 5 over 15 equals 1/3 x. Again, I'm trying to find my variable, which is x. I need to isolate the x. What's happening over here is division, because I know fractions are division. So the opposite of division is multiplication. And of course, we know dividing fractions, we copy, change my sign to multiplication, and I flip my fraction. Whatever I do to one side, I must do to the other. So I have 5 over 15 times 3 over 1. When I come back over here, cross simplifying, I see that this 3 and this 3 are both in the 3 times tables. 3 divided by 3 is 1, 3 divided by 3 is 1, 1 times 1 is 1, 1 times 1 is 1. I know I have 1 over 1 is 1. I have 1x left. Back over to this side, I see that I have a 3 and a 15. They are both in the 3 times tables. 3 divided by 3 is 1. 15 divided by 3 is 5. I have 5 times 1 is 5. 5 times 1 is 5. 5 over 5 equals 1 whole. So x equals 1. Okay, I'm going to do one more, and I think that would be pretty good for now, and you should be able to, let's do number 18, solve the rest on your own. 18 is 8p equals 88. Locate my variable. I notice that right next to my variable is a coefficient. A coefficient's job is to multiply to a variable, so I know I'm multiplying over here. The inverse operation of multiplication is division, so I must divide both sides by 8. These equal 1, P, and 88 divided by 8 is 11. My answer is P equals 11. Okay, I really hope that this has helped you, and we will go over the rest tomorrow in class. Have a great night.